Hello. I was just looking at the internet today and I saw a word I have never seen before, or I have never heard of before, really. And my phone will stay on. And you spell it Peniaphobia. Peniphobia? I'm not really sure if that's how you pronounce it or not, but I'm going to pronounce it that way. And if I'm saying it wrong, I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, that word means an intense, unrational fear of poverty. So we'll see if we can kind of unpack how we would sign that. I mean, I've never even heard it, but yet it's out there. And so people might be using it, especially maybe in counseling or something like that. So if it's the intense and it's not rational, there's not a good reason to fear to having poverty. So you could say, if someone uses that, you would say, "Oh, intense fear. I'll poor will be. I poor will, or I'll become poor." You could say that. It's this intense fear. I feel I'll become poor. That's how I would probably sign it, just because it's clear. And so they're saying that this causes people, they constantly worry, or eight hands, worry, or you could do worry. This is concern, and this is worry, right? Like frustrated, worry, those kinds of signs. So you could use worry. I got into a habit of using concern for if I'm worried about something. Okay, so they constantly worry. Let's use it correctly. They just kind of dwell on persistent thoughts. They just dwell on that I'm going to not have any money. I'm going to be broke, right? I'll be poor. So even though they have a job or they have money, they feel this for whatever reason. And that means that they're probably not going to take a risk, because maybe they fear failure or they're going to lose their money. In other words, maybe they're not their money, they're not going to invest it. And they also, that does like OCD, a compulsive, they just dwell on it. Well, they'll hoard, and not necessarily money, but things as well. They'll just hoard it because they think, oh no, I'm going to need these things because I'm going to become poor, or I'm not going to have anything. I'll just lose everything. So if I don't have it, then I won't be able to buy it. So that's their thought process. And sometimes they'll isolate themselves and withdraw because maybe they are embarrassed that they don't have enough money, or they don't want to spend it because they are afraid that they're going to lose their money. So they may do that. They may have just this constant stress. My phone, it's not on a long time thing. Or they can't sleep, so that would be kind of, I can't sleep. And maybe have some other anxiety issues or problems. I wouldn't say issues on this one. If I was interpreting it, it's anxiety problems. Anxiety problems. You could do issues if you were going to, the quote for issues, if you're going to then list them. But we're not going to list, what some of the anxiety issues are. And so the reason why some people do that is maybe when they were growing up, their family didn't have any money, or they were always broke, or maybe their parents, lost their job or something. Or maybe something, they had lost their job before and lost everything. So now, going forward in the future, they're not going to do that. They're going to hoard. They're not going to spend. They're just going to be in constant worry mode. So that's, it's kind of scary that there are people out there that had lived like that. It's really sad. But, and so if you know of someone who has that, or maybe you suspect that, maybe you can ask them some questions, because if it's, they say it's an irrational fear, which is not reasonable, or reasonable. It's not reasonable, it's irrational, because they have a job, or they have skills, or they can get a job, right? So that's why it's an irrational fear. They may have a job and have, things that they need. So they were saying that to try to help yourself or someone how to manage these feelings is to do breathing exercises, where you take a deep breath and then you hold it for like maybe 10 seconds or whatever, and then you slowly for 10 seconds, and then you repeat that. So those are some good breathing exercises. They do that with people that have anxiety. They also said that if they have just negative, and so if they think negative, so that's negativity, or they're pessimistic, then you can help try to have them think of maybe 5 positive things. So then you're replacing all the negatives. Okay, let's see. And then maybe reduce that social media comparison, kind of just get off of the different social media, because many people will compare themselves. Well, I don't have that, and look, they're going on vacation and all these different trips and cruises, and they spend money, and they have the new clothes and the shoes and the makeup and the hair, and so many people will compare themselves. And so many times young people will do that, but older people will do that as well. And then, of course, if you recognize that something, that maybe they should get some counseling, get some help. So there's, I was going to look at it because I had never heard this word, the Peniaphobia. They said that one of the therapies that they do is CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, and they just try to change the way they're thinking about things. So I think that's the most used. They have like exposure therapy, about looking at your bills and how much money, so they can have a realistic perspective and knowing they're not going to be on the street, because there's some people that are afraid of that. Either they've seen that, they've heard that, they know someone that's happened to them or to themselves, and they don't want that, so it scares them. So maybe that's why it seems like it's irrational, but maybe it's not, in their perspective. But the best way to have that anxiety, because it can get worse, then you've got this panic attack, and so you have to really kind of try to calm it down and do those breathing exercises. So I didn't want to get into the therapy, but I was going to get into the science, and the reason why they have this word now that I have never heard about. So I'm going to spell it again, because I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Peniaphobia is how I'm saying it. It's Peniaphobia, and it is an intense, irrational fear of poverty. So you just grab that, like, how some of those old-fashioned jackets had like the patches on them, and that's what it is. That's how I remember it. It's kind of pulling on that patch. And so if you notice that, I don't know, I'm going to be on the street if I don't, do this, or if I spend money on that, or if I don't just buy and hoard or whatever, it's irrational. Maybe they're afraid they're going to lose their job, or the way things are going in their life. They're afraid that they're going to be fired, or something happening to themselves or their family, and they won't have a job, and they won't have a home or car, but if you notice that in yourself or other people, then you can try to, help them do the breathing exercises, and then look at the realistic perspective, so that hopefully they can be calm, because it's hard to function in your life if you're have anxiety, because it'll only get worse. And so they don't really recommend medication. They recommend different ways of coping with it, facing it, coping with it. So anyway, it's a new word for me that I had never heard of, and maybe a new word for you, and you may hear more about it or see it in your associations. So practice and share with your friends and your family. I'll see you later. Bye.